Welcome to my podcast story, the show where podcasters share the real journey behind their voices, from their first mic check to their biggest milestones. Every episode reveals the lessons, challenges, and breakthrough that shape a podcast star's journey. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I can't wait for you to hear today's story. In today's episode of my podcast story, we have Deborah Bowers, the passionate host of Deals with Heels, where female entrepreneurs thrive. Her podcast serves as a dynamic platform where she shares invaluable marketing and sales strategies, mindset coaching, and personal growth insights specifically tailored for female entrepreneurs. With decades of experience in sales and advertising, Debra has an incredible story of reinvention. Started over in her 50s after raising 5 children, ending a 20-year marriage and founding her own marketing agency, Hexagon Media. She's here to share an inspiring journey of how she transformed personal challenges into professional triumph, and how our podcast became a vital resource for women navigating the entrepreneurial landscape. Deborah's blend of marketing expertise and spiritual healing journey makes her podcast story one you won't want to miss. Tell me your name and the name of your podcast.
Deborah Bowers. My podcast is Deals with Heels, where female entrepreneurs thrive.
Okay. Why did you start the podcast?
We started the podcast originally. It was kind of a weird thing. So I had a co-host when we first started, and we had seen each other out networking for our prospective businesses. I have an advertising agency, and she has a professional organizing company and is an ADHD coach. And so we had met, but hadn't taken the step to have a one-to-one appointment and really get to know one another. But I could just tell from her energy that I wanted to. And so we had this appointment, just kind of a get to know, how can we send each other business and support one another? And we clicked. I mean, just this immediate chemistry between the two of us, and we're immediate friends. And she's about 20 years younger than me, but it was serendipity, honestly, that we connected and found each other and really became such great friends. And so I don't know why exactly, Wisdom, if you really want to know the truth about, I'd known her about 4 months maybe, and 3 months, 4 months. And I just one day asked her if she wanted to start a podcast with me. And I had some fleeting thoughts of it maybe throughout my adulthood, nothing really firm, like I didn't have a plan. I don't know why the words came out or how. It was just kind of a God thing. And Christina said, "Oh my gosh, that's my lifelong dream." And so we decided to start one, and we both wanted to support women and empower women and entrepreneurs and business owners. It was a really big thing for both of us. We'd both been on a very similar spiritual healing journey that involved really finding ourselves and our passion again. So it started really as that. We weren't starting to really promote our businesses, or we didn't have I'm a sales and marketing expert, and I hadn't even considered how I could do any of that with it. We just did it. And once I've put my mind up to something, I can be very headstrong. And there were a couple of times where Christina was like, maybe we should delay. And I was just like, absolutely not. We set the day and it's happening. We're doing it. And so we did, and we launched. And we went 2 seasons together. And it was fantastic and amazing. We were in a professional studio, because with 2 hosts, you automatically have 3 camera angles to edit, makes it more complicated. Plus, we were in person together in the same city. So it was just more complicated than either of us really wanted to deal with at the time. And so at the end of season 2, Christina was having some just all kinds of changes and transitions happening in her professional and in her personal life. She still has young children, she's 20 years younger than me. And so she came to me and said she really needed to drop out of the podcast. She didn't feel like she had the time to commit to it and to really support it. And it was devastating, honestly. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Am I going to stop right here? And let's face it, lots of people do. At the time, we had 49 episodes and 2 seasons. And it was just, she's like, well, we could take, a year off. And I'm in my 50s. I don't want to take a year off. I don't have as much time as her. She just turned 40 and I am 58. I'll be 59 this year. And it is just, it was a quandary. So we agreed on that. She agreed actually to let me continue with the podcast and keep the name. And I did the content already. So I planned all the content. So that part was easy, but then, okay, now I know I really want to continue. This is my sole purpose. It took me a long time to find my voice and my passion again. I didn't want to give it up. And I could have started over with a new show, but Christina was so gracious and allowed me to just continue. But then I didn't know, what am I going to do? Am I going to be in a full service studio? And that seemed kind of silly at the time. And I felt kind of stuck in mud a little bit. And I think a lot of times when we feel like that, it's like God's having us wait until we're ready to hold that blessing. So I ended up being off the air about 3 months, which was longer than I wanted to be. And you know what that does to your momentum when you're off and don't have any new shows coming out. But during that time, I really sat and evaluated what I wanted to do. And I ended up, lots of things kind of came together. My editing skills and AI became much better. And I've been a guest on lots and lots of podcasts too. And that gave me a good feel for how other people are doing it. And I was a guest on lots of podcasts that had more episodes than me, much more experienced hosts than me. And so I reached out to a few and talked to them about how are they doing it? You have 1,500 episodes. How are you producing it all and doing it all? Yeah. And I got a lot of advice, and I ended up putting a small studio in my house. I did all the work myself, and I started episode 50 with just me as solo host. And here I am.
I'm curious. Are we in the studio right now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's.
I don't know. I've got a little.
Yeah. I don't know the logistics, but I would have loved a tour of the studio.
Well, I don't know. Wait, let me see if I can take the little camera off and see. Yeah. So I've got like my own like little desk and my heel that I don't know. Yeah, you can kind of see the logo, my neon, and I put up my own like backdrops all the way around, and they get kind of hippie cool over on some of it. My son loves the tapestries, and they help with the sound stuff. And I had like blackout curtains and my lights and all my stuff. So I'm gradually getting more professional equipment, but for the most part, I've got 4 different light sets that I rotate depending on what I'm doing. And I've recorded a little bit of other content in here as well, some voiceover stuff that I did, but it's done pretty well. I've recorded, I just finished recording episode 76, and I started with episode 50. So I have 27 episodes in my home studio that I've done of my own podcast, and it has been pretty well. Anytime I'm definitely, you guys, not a tech person. I'm a creative person, but I'm headstrong and I like to figure things out. But if there's something wrong, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know for sure how to fix it. And if there's an audio issue, which I had in a couple of episodes. And so that part of it has been a little bit of a learning curve for me. But, lifelong learning. It's a core value of mine. It's important.
You mentioned the studio, and you did give me a tour for the studio. Like how much would you say it cost you to set up that studio and get everything up and running?
It didn't really cost very much because I had a lot of it already. I had a lot of the stuff already. Like all of those tapestries I had. I used to have a big house when I was married and my kids were at home, and in the winter this one room had these these big glass doors, and they would bleed air and it would get chilly. And so I'd hang these tapestries up over them. So when I went searching for what do I actually have in my house that I could use, I went, oh yeah, I forgot about those. And so that helped. And the gray backdrops were not very expensive either. So I'm going to say less than $1,000.
Okay.
Maybe because already had the chairs, right? So I have a chair that we used in studio that I still use. I got a new mic because I didn't have this. I got some new lights that still were, I mean, they're not the big fancy video lighting or anything like that. And I was using I already used my laptop. And then I got an interface. So less than $1,000 for sure, because it's not professional. I mean, it is, but it's not like walking into a studio with big professional cameras and all of those things. But it has worked out fine. I don't think people expect a lot of super quality video when they're looking at a podcast. And that is really the hardest part, even though the part that I struggled with was audio when I had my technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the video. I mean, if it's there or not. But when the audio's there, and you're playing with the levels and learning all of that, was a bit of a learning curve for me. But it all works out. It always does.
Right
And
now,
I'm really
you're on the
proud of
spot.
the episode. I'm really proud of the work that I did, that I've done in the episode, and actually finished recording season 3. So I recorded an entire season in my little home studio, and it was great, very convenient, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I'm keeping it. I'm just getting ready to start recording season 4, and I'm going to do it right here again. And then slowly I'll upgrade, to more professional camera equipment and lighting. But right now it works great. I think I look pretty good on camera.
The mic
And it's a great microphone.
Yeah. The mic sounds well. And then how many lights do you have? Like I noticed 2
Yep. I have 2 ring lights. And then I have like a bigger, like the box light, and they all have different settings on, the warm light or the blue light. And for me, I found that like a combination. So one of my sons went to film school, and he's not working in film, of course, because what kid, but he makes music for a variety of different things. So if you need some for your podcast, let me know. My son can hook you up. And but he knows lighting, and so when he was here, I talked to him about lighting, and we looked at a bunch of different things, and he showed me kind of how different angles of lighting can create effects. And so practicing and just kind of figuring it out as I go. But I have, for me, switching up, like if I try to put all the lights on warm, for example, then which has like a more of a pink yellow tone to it. Like, have you ever changed the light bulbs in your house and suddenly you're like, why is that one look so blue compared to all the rest of them? I had no idea, but there are different tones of light bulbs that you can buy that are the normal white light bulbs. They go from really cool to a warmer tone. And so I would think, oh, I want it all on warm. I'm a redhead and I need all that warm color in. And oh no, it doesn't work that way. If I put them all like that, then there's hardly any color. It's just kind of playing with them and finding which one looks the best. And then it also depends on what color I'm wearing.
Yeah. Oh.
That makes it like I'll have it set up perfectly. This is it. I'm never messing with these lights again. And then I'll sit down to record. And I'll be like, why does it look like this? It was so perfect the last time. So I'm not a videographer. This much is certain. But I've produced a lot of video in my marketing career. And we had an in-house TV production crew in the 90s when I was fresh out of college and working. And so I learned a lot back then just about entertainment and content and lighting and what looks good, but nearly the depth that I have had to learn about it from just myself. And technology is so much better now as well. But
Yeah. How long has the podcast been around for?
we started it in 23. So in 2023, we started the podcast.
years.
So we're going 2 years
Yeah.
and 3 seasons in. So pretty good. This week, episode 69 premiered. So
Episode
that's
69. Wow.
it's a pretty big deal. You've got like
Yeah.
several podcasts, so you're really branching out with lots of different ones.
Quick break. Before we continue, I'd love to invite you to join the My Podcast Story newsletter. Each week, I share highlights from our guest stories, behind the scenes podcasting tips, and resources to help you grow your own show. You can sign up at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. Now, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, you're crushing it. I saw one of your episode on, because I'm subscribed on Spotify. I saw the transformative holistic approach with Nicolette Mieras, and I was like, yeah,
She was amazing.
Yeah,
she was amazing. Yeah, she was an amazing guest and lots of great information. I had a really long conversation with her beforehand. Because we had technical difficulties on both of our ends. And so that always makes you get to know one another a little bit better when you're struggling to problem solve together. And it was one of those things, you and I talked about conversations ahead of time and what to do with them. Sometimes they're so good and you wish you would have recorded them. And that is what it was with Nick. She and I just clicked and had the best conversation before we got on and recorded. And so it was one that I wish I would have started recording at the beginning. Yeah. So I could have saved a little of it.
The moment you mentioned recording, I just had to look at the screen to see if the thing is counting.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm pretty good at remembering to press record because I have to wait to see the countdown, but I like that like if I could record it early. You and I talked about this in another conversation about having that extra content to use for bloopers or subscriber content because it's great sometimes. But off the subject of what the podcast is about, if we were planning on talking about this, and then you and I off camera had this fantastic conversation that was going to help the world, and we didn't record it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, for me, I've set it once the guest joins me, he starts recording, so I don't even have to bother. We talk, and then when it's time for editing, I call it out.
You told me that, and I am considering doing it. I don't know how much difficult it'll make the editing process for me, but I really introduced the show on camera, so it doesn't really matter. Right? Because I can get to that one point.
Yeah, just
and yes. And in the first season, we were at a place we recorded in 2 separate studios. And in the first season, we recorded in a studio. And when we started, before we started, they had us clap above our heads so they would know when they were going through footage quickly that's the beginning of an episode. So I could do something like that so that when I was in there, I would say, okay, this is the beginning, and I can clip it and save the rest. But so it's a good idea. I like it because I've missed some great conversations at the beginning that I wish I would have had. Yeah.
Now that you mentioned the clapping, I've not really found a use for that because, I use text editing softwares. So I just scroll down the text and I look for the parts where I'm like, tell me your name and the name of your podcast, and that's like the starting point. And then I just put a marker there and cut the stuff before that.
Oh, so that would work too. So because I always introduce it and welcome the audience on air, when I record every time. So I could look for that every time as well.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Awesome.
Quickly, could you walk me through your workflow right now? Because you have a studio, which is really nice because now you have a place to just step into and create podcast magic.
Exactly. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Walk me through your workflow. How does your podcast get made from idea to publishing?
Okay. Well, I typically book guests pretty far in advance. And so I always start with a review of who do I have coming, right? Who are the guests? Because if they're booked out far enough in advance, I won't remember exactly what I had planned on us talking about when I reviewed. And so I'll look at my notes. And of course, they all fill out a booking form. So I pull all those booking forms and I just really start putting the show together. What's interesting to me about them? It seems selfish, kind of, I guess, to think about it in that way, but I'm a female entrepreneur, right? And so for me, is it interesting for me as a business owner? Would it be helpful to me to have a conversation with this person about this or about that? This week's guest is a woman, and she is a personal branding expert specializing in LinkedIn. And I talk to a lot of business to business people. So for example, my business, my services are available to other businesses, not to consumers. And I have a lot of business owners that end up spending a lot of money on regular social media like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. And if you have a business to business audience, then you don't need to be on any of those. That's a waste of your money because you spend are they on there? Well, maybe. Are they going to get washed out with all of the millions of people that are never going to do business with you because they don't own a business? And so, so for me, for example, having Julie on was a very relevant because I think a lot of people aren't experienced in personal branding on LinkedIn. I certainly could be better at it. And so I felt like that would be great information for me and thus also for my guests and for my clients. I think that they would benefit from having her advice. So I really look at them and say, one, what did I think we were going to talk about? What's their entrepreneurial journey? Usually I can remember pretty quickly. Oh, yeah, I remember she does this. And I look at my notes and their booking form and what they're promoting. When I have a guest, I think it's important to let them have a chance at the end to talk about what they do, or at least talk about how we can find you and what you're doing and buy your book or whatever it is that they're on the show promoting. Because as much as we love it, none of us are doing it for fun. Right? It's fun the first few times and we have fun episodes. And sometimes we have a guest and a host that we really click with. You and I have been on a few podcasts together and we have a great chemistry and click. So it's not that it's not enjoyable, but it's time consuming. And most people aren't doing it just for fun. They have a purpose when they're being a guest. And so I like to consider that as well. Sometimes what I want to talk about isn't directly related to what they're promoting. And I don't care. I'll still want to talk about but I will let them come back in and I plan questions. I write questions out for the show. But it's okay if I don't get to all the questions. If the conversation just is so good that we take up all of the time and we don't end up really getting to the questions that I planned, that's okay because that means it was a good conversation. But when I plan those episodes, that's what I look at. And they filled out the information they want to talk about, but I go deeper than that. I really want to go look. I look at their websites. I look if they've got a profile on a platform that I use. Sometimes they'll come from an agency. A booking agent will pitch them to me. And so I look at their stuff and kind of just decide what sounds interesting, what would go well with this group of episodes that are kind of lumping together here. And then always, I only have female guests. And we always talk about what their entrepreneurial journey has been. And sometimes they don't have a real struggle story yet. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's like me and they spent a ton of time in corporate America or corporate somewhere else, and they're branching out on their own because they felt so unfulfilled. Sometimes they've been a stay-at-home mom. I sacrificed a lot to raise 5 kids. I wasn't a stay-at-home mom. I worked and ran my husband's businesses, but I also didn't run any of my own passion, and I didn't do anything. I made decisions based on what other people needed for a long time because that's what moms do. So a lot of my guests have a similar story to that kind of second awakening of, boy, what am I going to do now? My kids are grown. I've been taking care of everybody all this time. Now what am I going to do? So a lot of them have that story and they've overcome it. So I love hearing those stories, and I find them so inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah. I like your show is, you know, it has a clear audience, female entrepreneurs, and I like the way you've been, doing the episodes. And I just want us to go back. Your show is called Deals with Hughes. Why that name? Like, where did that name come from?
One of the things that Christina and I bonded over when we very first met were heels, high heeled shoes. I've always loved them. My mom used to say I went through the little girls' shoe department from a young age looking for high heeled shoes. I don't know if I wore them a lot in another life, but I love to wear heels, and she had this awesome pair of heels on that I liked, and we had this big conversation about shoes and how much we love shoes and how dressing up and wearing heels made us feel powerful, right? When I walk in and I've got on a great pair of shoes, I feel powerful. And so that kind of merged into when one of us would have something good happen. It wasn't always that we closed a deal, but a lot of times it was like I booked this client but sometimes it was, hey, I just had a great day. I had a great conversation. This happened. But we would send each other a photograph of our foot and the heel we were wearing when we did the badass thing that we did, whatever it was. So that really progressed. We did that a lot. For a couple of months. And during the whole show planning before we launched, which of course took us a little bit of time to figure it all out. And we kept doing that. So the whole first season, we had a queen of the week, and women would send us photos of their shoe, of their foot. And we didn't discriminate. We'd take any type of shoe, any type of heel. It didn't have to be just the ones I like, any type possible we would take. And they would tell us whatever they had done that made them proud and made them feel powerful. And we talked about them on the air and highlighted them on the website. It was a big deal. So it was just a part of kind of who we are. And it made us feel empowered as women. And so that's the name that kind of came out.
Oh, I like your idea. Are you still doing that Queen of the Week right now?
We are not doing that. We only did that the first season. As you can imagine, it was a lot of work to promote it. And then also you wanted to highlight everybody and you had to choose. And that part was really difficult for both of us, trying to pick one out of all of them that we saw and not just pick cute shoes, but pick great stories too. It was great for season 1, but we haven't done it. And I didn't do it in season 3 either. And I'm not planning it for season 4, but it was a great way to start. And I might bring it back. You never know. It was I still every now and then I'll send Christina a picture of my foot just because something really badass happened. But it was a thing just that we bonded over, that it just kind of happened.
Yeah. And in my last podcast, you did talk about the story of war, like how you navigated, when the co-host decided to stop podcasting. That for you was, it was really, what's the word I want to use? It was cathartic. Yeah. It was more like, it was not like, I'm used to, having a conversation with someone. I'm not used to, hosting the show myself. And I want you to walk me through, that experience.
Well, at first it was kind of devastating. I didn't think I would ever be sitting there without my friend. And the thought of moving on and making all the decisions on my own and doing everything was daunting. But doing it became kind of cathartic in learning it all and figuring it all out. But starting it with her and having it be such a big part of our friendship and our relationships, it was hard to say goodbye to that part of it. And I worked and I worked and I worked and I got it all going. And then in episode 50, I'm completely by myself. I didn't even have a guest. Thought, I have so many guests on that had something, an obstacle or a tragedy in their life. And and they navigated all the way through it, and they've got a book about it or a coaching platform, or they've made it through. And it's been a fairly significant amount of time, and they're out and they're talking about it. And believe you me, I love those success stories, but I felt like it was important to document it when it was fresh, because I lived it right then, and explain how it felt. And I'm not always vulnerable on the air, but I cry a little bit in that episode because I really allowed myself to explain that I didn't want to do it without my friend. I really didn't expect to be there. And even though that was what was best for both of us, we came to that decision together. It was emotional and it was painful. It was a loss that I had to deal with. And I think a lot of people fail in that moment. And it's difficult to move on from something when you're used to having it in your life, and making a decision that feels so strange, and it's scary to do it by yourself. But I did it. I made the decision I was going to, and it feels great now. But I have to tell you, it was kind of terrifying, honestly, to think about doing it, and it was upsetting. And it took me a little bit of time to really feel those feelings and be okay with them. And one of the biggest things was when that first episode of me as solo host aired, episode 50, Christina messaged me and was just so proud of me. And that was everything for me. It really was, because she knows that I'm not easily vulnerable, and that how hard it was for me to open up and talk about my feelings and how it felt. Like, I can tell you all how I did it and how I put up all the curtains and how I did all my stuff and where I bought my things. But how it felt, how it hurt my heart, that's not something I would normally just blast out to everybody. I'm a Scorpio. We keep all that stuff locked down, man. I had to actually purposely let it, okay, it's okay, you can do it, and let it out. But it was cathartic, and I think it helped everyone understand why she wasn't there, and that the very first thing most people said was, "What'd y'all get in a big fight about? Who's mad at who? What'd you do?" Right? They just assume we got in a big fight. It had to have been me. No, but honestly, we're not in any kind of a fight. We didn't have a disagreement at all. She's thriving. She's not gone. She's doing great things, and I'm very proud of her and her journey. But boy, at the time, it felt really lonely, and it was sad and emotional. But now that I've done it and I'm through, then it's really empowering, and I'm very proud of myself for being able to do it. But because I also had to pick up all the rest of the work, right? So am I going to go in the studio and pay her half too? Because we were paying, right? And if I weren't going to do that, could I shorten the show so it's less studio time so I could still pay the same expense? But then that's going to change kind of the brand and the content altogether. So going through that decision process of how can I make it work if I stay in studio? What are the other options? And then just the universe and AI and everything coming together at the right perfect time for me to have the confidence to say, okay, I can do this by myself. This is what I think I'm going to do. And once I made that decision, then the key for me, because I have to use challenge mindset, give myself a deadline to work towards. Then I set the deadline of this is when I'm going to premiere season 3, and then just backed out those dates. I've got to record by this date. I've got to have everything booked by this day. So backed it all out to how I needed to make all of that happen. And it worked, but it was a lot of crying for a long time. I'll be honest. What am I going to do? I want my friend back. And so, but her being proud of me, man, it made everything all right. Honestly, it made everything all right.
Yeah,
I saved that message.
You were able to pull through, and you are talking about the podcast, and the podcast is still going on, even season 4.
Well, season 4 will be a lot of the same. I have a lot of great female entrepreneurs, and they have done a lot of amazing things. I think as you get into more and more episodes and you get more and more, even ranking on search engines, I think you got to get about 100 episodes before you really start seeing that. But you do get better and better guests, I think, in a lot of ways. And I have a lot of great guests planned that are coming up for next season, a lot of great female entrepreneurs. And then I'm launching my own new mindset training for sales coaching platform, hopefully the beginning of 2026.
Congratulations.
It's going to be a pretty big thing.
Wow.
So I'll come back around and tell you all about that when that comes in. I'll be looking for some beta testers, so I'll keep you abreast of when I need all of those things. I'm super excited about that. Changing my mindset was a really big deal in 2020 when kind of my world all fell apart and I started over. Mindset, I had to fix that in order to change my life, and I have a free ebook. I'll put a link in for you. I probably put it on my booking form as we talk about booking forms, but it is 5 steps to having a mindset for success. I'm not a counselor or a psychologist. I'm a marketing person, but those are the 5 steps I took to change my life. And they're easy and hard. Isn't that the way it always is? They're easy. It's not like I'm going to have to go climb. I don't have to go. I don't have to go climb a mountain.
Is it easy or is it hard? What do you mean they're easy and they're hard?
Like life, my friend, like life. Easy and hard. Sometimes when you look at something, it's not physically difficult. It's not a brain strain. It's not complicated calculus that I got to figure out. So in those ways, it's not difficult. But sitting down by yourself with only your thoughts, figuring out why you feel the way you do and why what that person said sent you off the rails and made you so upset when you don't even really give a shit about it. And all of those things. Yeah, that's the hard part. But essential. I'm
curious. When would we see more solo episodes of you just talking and telling us your own story?
For my episodes of my podcast? Well, we're on weekly. New episode premieres every Tuesday, and I'm hopefully not going to have any big breaks coming up. I'm pretty booked for recording season, and I'm getting a little bit further ahead, so we should have new episodes every Tuesday.
Yeah, you didn't get the question. I said, when will we see episodes where you're just the one in the episode?
I don't know. I've only done the one, and it felt kind of weird. How many have you done with just you? We need the little Jeopardy background. Dun 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 dun. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Right. It feels kind of weird. I might do it again. I definitely want to do a recap of episodes and go back and revisit like groups of episodes maybe and topics that now that I've had a few seasons, I have kind of reoccurring topics. Like mindset or scaling coaching businesses, things like that I think are great to revisit. Like, boy, those email marketing people that I had on, I've had 2 or 3 on, and they all talked about different things. And I think going back and recapping some of that and putting it all together in one place in an episode, I would only be the only guest, but edit in clips from others. I think that's a good idea for things like that. So you can group in, plus draws attention to other episodes. Yeah. So if somebody hasn't listened to the other 2 episodes in a group, then they would be perhaps interested in doing that and learning the rest of the stuff that's in those episodes as well. Plus, I just love getting all those topics together in one place and digging in and figuring it all out. So I think that I can see doing that a little bit. I don't know about just being no guest by myself, but I can hear all my friends saying, please, Deborah, you never shut up. You can totally do it.
I mean, you could do it. But it's just that we,
I,
as hosts, we are used to asking the questions, not answering them.
well, that is part of it, but also there's only so many times you can tell your story, right?
You sure
So,
about that?
well, I mean, you say it a lot as a guest, but on your own show, you don't really need a bunch of episodes telling the same story over and over. So I think bringing guests on help you incorporate your story and the lessons that you've learned by talking about somebody else's journey and their story and how that relates and interrelates to your life and what's happened to you in your life. So oftentimes in my podcast, you'll hear me talk about one little excerpt of something that happened in my life, but I may have talked about that in a couple of other episodes too, how it related to that person and their experiences and their struggles and their successes.
The way you say that, it seems as if there's just one story. Every day there's something significant that happens, that teaches you something about mindset, business, and all that. And these are sections that you could actually have episode ideas on, right? Your show is deals with youth. It's about business and entrepreneurship, right? And you could see something on the news that happened, and then you say, "Oh yeah, this is my 2 cents on this." And you could notice something why you just maybe traveling to a place, and so you just notice something happen, and you're like, I noticed that this is, and maybe you see one weird, amazing stats that maybe 70% of female entrepreneurs, so this kind of thing happened to their business and stuff like that. And say, let's talk about it. And then you talk, and then you share your story and stuff like that. Because I feel at the end of the day that the people are on the show because of you.
Thank you. That is
You are the
very
constant.
kind of you to say.
No, like that's
Well,
the truth.
that's
Like you're
the
the
host
constant
is,
factor.
right?
Yeah, it's your house.
That's true. It definitely is. You guide the content and who you get as guests, and it definitely, and you could see that from the differences in guests, perhaps from me switching over to solo host. There's definitely a little bit more of a sales and marketing vibe in the guests. I was, when I booked guests before, I was always very cognizant of what Christina does and getting guests that vibe with her and her mission in life as well. And I still have guests like that, but I think if we looked, we probably would find a little bit more of a sales marketing vibe in there just because that's my passion and what I'm an expert in. So I love to dig in and learn more and have those conversations. So you definitely do guide what vibe is in that podcast too and control what's in there. And I noticed that as I'm a guest on bigger and bigger podcasts, oftentimes I have to interview to get on a podcast. So I'll get invited to come talk about being on a podcast. And I don't do that because I don't have time to do it. But you definitely, I haven't had horrible guests. I've had a couple that maybe were a little jet lagged. But so you, as a host, you have to, it is about you, or one guest that was a little womp womp would make them not listen anymore when they know it's going to be good the next time too. So it definitely is. Personal branding is really important if you want to have your own show. If people are out there listening, wanting to start a podcast. One, it's not as hard as you think. Two, you have to have a plan for content because you can only tell your own story so many different ways. So how are you going to keep that content going and talking about it? You don't have to have guests, but you do have to have a plan. And then personal branding, it's about you. Even if you're getting booked as a guest, you're booking me, not what I've done, not my book, not my sales platform, none of the things, not what I'm selling. You're booking me. And so that personal brand is important. It's important that you identify with it and are authentic. People can tell when you're faking it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is your podcast on?
It is. In fact, a little over half of our viewers on YouTube are male. And I find that interesting, but we have a lot of great entrepreneurial business content. So I'm not surprised in that sense. But on pretty much every other platform, we are about 70% female. But on YouTube,
how's it doing on YouTube? Would you be kind enough to share your YouTube screen with us and then walk us through some of the things you're applying on, so we can learn some?
I don't know. I can try. I'm not super great at doing all of the YouTube
on the screen,
stuff.
You see a place where they say share, and
Yes.
yeah.
But I need to have a screen up for it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yikes. Hang on. Okay.
Yeah.
So this, here's all my episodes, and I do a specific type of thumbnail for all of them. And so all my season 3 stuff looks like this over here. And it has a picture of me, and then I have a headshot of the guest. And here's one I was talking about for email marketing. Hopefully it doesn't open up and play, but MV did a really great job. And so I make that, and then the show notes of everything that's in those. I'm not as good at putting all of the shorts in, but I have some shorts in also, which promote different episodes. And I try to make them all look the same, and now Spotify allows you to put clips in also. So I'm not very good at going in and commenting and doing all of the things. And I've done some live on here. We did, I judged a motorcycle show, and I did that live. And then I promoted a charity at a big motorcycle rally that was a all women's motorcycle parade and rally that was in Oklahoma City, and I got my first tattoo live on the air, and so that video is in here. It was for charity, and you could vote for money on one of the locations that were pre-approved to put the tattoo. So that was on. We broadcasted live from Kentucky Derby Day and a variety of different things, and so that's all broadcast live on YouTube, and then they stay in here as well. Let me see if I've got other seasons. I do. So here's some seasons with Christina. You can see the set looks different, and we did thumbnails different. I think the one, so we were in a full service studio when we did those. And then I can go all the way back to the beginning maybe, and you'll be able to see. So we have a drinking game with our first few episodes if people drink alcohol and know what the drinking games are. But so we were in a studio at a table for season 1. And so that looks even different in those. But the first few episodes, we were in a studio, and we did some content. Of course, we were rookies, of course, right? We had never done it before. We didn't really even practice. I had done some stuff, a communications degree, but for real, it had been a long time. Christina, so the drinking game is, if in the first 3 episodes, Christina says, or I say, or either one of us say, absolutely, then you have to drink. And what I'm going to tell you is don't be driving. Don't be driving because I think we counted. Christina said, 20 sometimes in one episode. It's part of her regular vernacular when she talks. So she would say, and keep talking. It was, so if you can't laugh at yourself, then you shouldn't be doing podcasting. But we've obviously gotten much better since those days, but it is pretty fun. We had a good time going back. It wasn't until we sat back and listened to it together that Christina looks at me and says, how many times am I going to say,
Yeah.
So better than any of the other, what is it they play now? Beer pong or whatever that is that the kids play with the ping pong balls and do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Yeah. But this one, just listen. They're great episodes. The first episodes are a 5-part series on mindset because Christina and I's common mindset brought us together. And so we have a 5-part series talking about mindset. Those are the first 5 episodes. And those are the ones with the knows and the absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any projections for your podcast?
Right now, projecting to be launching around my 100th episode, my mindset training for sales platform at the same time. And We are getting a little bit higher up on some search engines so if you searched my name or my podcast, I'm going to show up and all my guest episodes. I've been a guest, I don't know, 40 sometimes. So all that stuff will show up. But the key is to have it show up on Entrepreneurial Podcast, for example. And even though with just the episodes I have now, 69 episodes that are available and published, that probably has us in the top 5% of all podcasts, but the big search engine algorithm. So if you Google us or if you search on Bing or Safari, then we're not going to show up. So last month, I got a message that female entrepreneur, I think I was ranking around 12th down, which is pretty good. For us, I mean, it's a pretty small podcast at 69. As proud as I am, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm doing it. There's so many bigger ones. But so really just continuing to grow, continuing to help women share their stories and find their voice and find their confidence, and growing, just growing.
Yeah. SEO is one of is like more relaxed way to grow your podcast. When people are looking for your type of podcast, you want to show up.
You definitely do. And there are advertising opportunities that are very targeted for podcasts. I like to use paid digital ads. And when I say digital, I do not mean social media. These are the clickable banner ads that you find on websites and apps that you're on all the time. Here in the United States, they know all the households. I can target by all kinds of things. And one of the things that was frustrating for me was not being able to link. So if I can't link the click to YouTube. I can go to my website, but I don't host at my website. And so if I would go to my Spotify page or my Apple page, if you don't listen on that platform, then you have to log in. Right? You have to create an account. So the more cumbersome it is for somebody to even catch a small amount of your show, the more likely it is that they're going to exit out and not do it. And so
create a landing page.
Yeah, well, you can do a landing page, and that's what we were doing, and I experimented with different ways. But my digital team that works for the wholesaler that I use to place those ads, and for example, guys, when you search for something and you say the internet's spying on you because then you got a bunch of ads for what you were searching for, those ads. So if they search for entrepreneurial podcast, then we would send them ads for my show. And now I can target that. Now you can click to a link tree where they could choose which link they want to go to listen to it, or you can target the ads towards people that listen to podcasts on a specific platform. So I would have, it's more complicated for the agency to do, for me to do as agency, because then I've got separate campaigns for every platform. But I can say this ad's targeted towards people that listen to podcasts on Spotify, and then it clicks to my Spotify page. And so that it's right in. And I like that because it's so much less cumbersome, and I'm targeting people that already listen to podcasts. When you are on social media, yeah, the people that listen to podcasts are maybe on there, but there's millions of people that don't listen to podcasts. So now you've got to try to get them over the hump and try to get them to listen to a podcast. And that's a much bigger challenge than just going in and trying to grab a listener for somebody that's already doing it. So I've worked hard to find those targeting things, and I have different campaigns that I run to try to build viewership and listenership on different platforms. And of course, you can buy them direct on YouTube, and those work pretty well also. But that's my, paying job is the advertising agency. And that's what my specialty really is in. And I don't like to waste money. So I find ways to really get in and dig deep on those. So there are ways to promote and try to speed up that process. But honestly, you got to hit those episodes for the big algorithms to really pay attention. They want to know you're still there after about 100 episodes. It varies wildly. It's crazy how much it varies. The average are really only about probably 250 because some won't get very much at all. I can't quite figure out how it has a lot to do with the guest and the topic. it's hard for me to figure out which episodes are going to do well. I'll have an episode that I think is fantastic and it won't do as well as one that I was just like, that topic is just so bland, but I don't have all that quite figured out yet. But as far as, and I don't really go in and add them up on all of the platforms either. Oh, and if I add YouTube into that, then I'm probably getting up closer to 1,000 because YouTube adds in and it adds in the shorts too. So excerpts that I post too. So it really depends on a lot of who the guest is.
Yeah.
And do they promote the episode? And did I promote it the week it premiered or did I promote it later? Sometimes if you promote after, because you get a little bump when it premieres, but then it kind of lags off and you've got a new one coming out. But I like to go back and post more clips of some of the older ones. I think it builds momentum, makes those bump up to the top of the search thing again because there's something new attached to them. And I think that helps too. But man, it's hard to predict what people are going to enjoy and like. And I honestly can't.
Well, thank you so much, Deb, for sharing your podcast story.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me. I had a great time. I always enjoy talking to you. And I hope I had some information that'll help your audience.
Yeah. This is like chapter 1 of the podcast. Would love to follow on along with your chapter 2, your chapter 3. And I'd love to see where the podcast go.
I will gladly come and talk about it again. I'm super excited to hit my 100th episode, which is going to be the beginning of season 5. So I do about 25 episodes a season. So we'll be prepping up for all of that. And I can't wait. It's going to be, it's going to be
Once
good.
that happens, I'd love to, have you back on the podcast and then we'll talk about, what it is to get to that 100 milestone and, your experience. And, shoot me an email and we can book a time.
I will. And I would love to have you on mine, but darned if you're not a dude. Right now I'm only having female guests. You never know what the future is gonna hold, but for right now we are only having a female guest. But man, we always have great conversations and I really appreciate you letting me come tell my podcast story.
Yeah, that's not an issue. I really understand. Every show has I always like it when shows they have this clear cut. Oh, this is who the podcast is for, and what the podcast is about. That way, it's easy to tell. Is it for me or is it not for me? I hate when I'm looking at a show and I'm confused. I'm like, I don't know if it's for me. I don't want that situation. It should be easy. Like you just look at a show and you're like, nah, yes, and you move. And same thing with this my podcast story. I want to talk to podcasts, so other podcasters can listen on. And so when you see the podcast, you instantly can tell, is it for me? No. Is it for me? Yes. And you move, you have your way. So you don't wait.
And I think it's great that there's a lot of people that are interested in starting a podcast and they don't understand how it works and how, one, it's difficult to monetize them. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort to get any kind of monetization based on content. It's important you have something to sell that you're driving promotion with too. I think it's important for you to, I think it's a great show to give people an idea about all the different kinds of podcasts that are out there and how they all came to be and all the struggles and the successes. It's important, I think. I'm glad you have this show. I think it's a great, great show for all of those people interested in, one, finding new podcasts, and two, maybe having their own podcast.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Deborah. I've noticed that I know I need to round up quickly because I'm already 5 minutes over the time limit. I noticed that
Right.
all through our conversations, we've never actually spent time to do that which you're good at, you're great at. Yeah, good is an understatement. And one of these days, I would come up with an idea for an episode where I would reach out to you, and then we'll go into marketing. And then you have all your slides, all your deck, and you see the way you shared your. And then I'll start taking notes and I'll start asking questions. Excuse me, ma. You said this. What do you mean by this? I don't quite understand. And hopefully you'll get there.
Well, you will definitely get there. And I'm down to talk about anything. I have a very, very good memory for all kinds of crazy knowledge. If I learned it once and I can still talk about it typically, and which is annoying sometimes to people too, but I'm down to talk about anything, honestly. So give me a shout. We'll come on and have some fun.
Yeah. One final question, and then we'll round up the episode. What advice do you have for people who are just starting out, more like you, 2 years ago, right?
I would say resilience and creativity. Don't be scared to talk about it, right? You're always like nervous about what people are going to think, but if you can think about talking about it, then you probably should be talking about it. I think we get caught up in people pleasing. And if you're interested in starting or you're just starting a podcast, then there's a reason that your voice is out there. There's a reason that God put you in that position. So say it with your chest, say it out loud for all of the
Yeah.
people to hear, and don't be afraid to say it. Of course, we're all timid when we first start, and I certainly was, but your story is important. There's a reason you're thinking about doing it. There's a reason you are doing it if you're just starting out. So be resilient. Hang in there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Where can the listeners learn more about you and your amazing?
You can find us at dealswithheels.com. That's HEELS, like for your shoes. And it has links to every platform you can find us at. Well, probably not all the obscure ones. We're on all the platforms. And as Wisdom knows, you send in one feed and they distribute it everywhere. So we should be wherever you are. And you can find out about me. You can link to my agency website at hexagonmedia.net. And then I'll include a link to my free ebook, 5 Steps to Having a Mindset for Success.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm
thank
on
you
all the
so
social media. I'm on all the
Yeah.
social media because, advertising agency. But
Channel and all that stuff. Thank you
right,
so much.
right.
It's been a pleasure chatting.
Thank you for having me on.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I hope you enjoyed listening to this journey as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps others discover the show. And don't forget to join the newsletter at mypodcaststory.com/join for more stories and podcasting insights. Until next time, keep telling your story because someone out there needs to hear it.